Good evening, and welcome to the virtual open house for Steinberg Rink and Pavilion. I'm Cordell Whitlock with Vector Communications. Vector is handling public engagement and media outreach for Steinberg Reimagined. We had a fantastic open house this past Saturday, and there was a lot of excitement about this project. Our agenda for this meeting is as follows. We will begin with welcoming remarks by Frank Cartman, Senior Vice President of Operations for Forest Park Forever. We will then introduce the design team who will provide an overview of Steinberg Reimagined. After reviewing what's next with Steinberg, we will have a Q&A session before wrapping up. As you are watching the presentation, feel free to share your comments and questions at any time using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. During Q&A, I will read your questions out loud, and with all of these talented people assembled, I'm quite confident we will have some answers. Everyone except tonight's panelists are on mute, so everyone should be able to hear clearly. Please visit surveymonkey.com/r/Steinberg-comments to fill out a brief comment form based on what you see tonight. I know that was a mouthful, but that link should be on your screen. Public engagement has been integral to the process of Steinberg becoming a year-round destination, and tonight is an extension of that with your participation. Since 2019, over 4,000 people have left feedback on Steinberg Reimagined, and we would like you to do the same. All feedback will be reviewed by the design team. At this time, I'd like to introduce Frank Cartman with Forest Park Forever. Good evening, Frank.
Thank you, Cordell, and welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our Steinberg virtual open house this evening. We have a lot of exciting information to share with you tonight. As Cordell said, I am Frank Cartman. I'm the Senior Vice President of Park Operations for Forest Park Forever. And just a little background on Forest Park Forever. We are a nonprofit park conservancy that was created in 1986, and we are here for the purpose of raising funds for the restoration and maintenance of Forest Park. We have grown over the years to include an extensive operations department, complete with project managers, maintenance staff, both on the hardscape infrastructure side as well as the greenscape side with gardeners, horticulturists, and nature reserve specialists. And we maintain the park in partnership with the City of St. Louis Parks Department in areas ranging from restoring the park's forests to its prairies, its waterway system, and as well the things you don't see, like the pumps and motors that operate the beautiful fountains we have here in Forest Park, the sidewalks and roads that we all use to maneuver through the park, as well as the restrooms, the pavilions, and other iconic assets in the park. And we do all this through the guidance provided by the Forest Park Master Plan, which was created in 1995. And that plan, created by the citizens of the city of St. Louis, created a vision for what was needed to restore the park, maintain it, and sustain it. And we have been addressing that vision for the last, 20 plus years with a number of various capital projects and maintenance projects that we have undertaken. And I will just say that in summary, when it comes to Steinberg, as one of those amenities that are addressed in the Forest Park Master Plan, in summary, it says, let's restore, let's renovate, and improve Steinberg as a recreational support facility that will not only be here for wintertime ice skating, but be a 12-month-a-year actively and passively programmed facility that is welcoming to all visitors. And that is our goal in this project. And with that, I want to turn it over to Rob Gray, who is the design landscape architect for Hare Shout, who will begin us on this journey through our presentation this evening.
All right. Well, thank you, Frank. Thanks for that introduction. And like Frank said, I'm Rob Gray. I'm a principal with Hershout Landscape Architects. We're about an 80-person landscape architecture firm based in Chicago, with offices in Los Angeles and Kansas City, where I lead a studio there. It's my pleasure to introduce the design team that's part of this project. And again, everybody here is extremely excited to be a member of the team that really gets to be a part of this this transformative project that's really going to strengthen Forest Park and be such an amenity for the people of St. Louis. For this project, we have a pretty extensive team comprised of both nationally recognized experts and local design consultants who really know how things work and get done in St. Louis. So just a quick overview of the team. The project lead and the architect of record is Christner Architects, and they're based here in St. Louis. I just talked about Hershout. The design architect, the architect that will be leading the design vision for the project is Snow Krylik Architects, and Karen Liu from their office will be speaking on this presentation tonight. They're based in Minneapolis. Some of the other consultants that we have on our team, NYL is our structural engineer, Vector Communications, you just saw Cordell. We couldn't do this project without them. They're kind of managing the public engagement process for this, has been instrumental in getting us to where we are today and helping us move where we need to be going forward. Some more technical consultants, obviously being an ice rink, we need engineers who are versed in both the mechanical and plumbing aspects of that, as well as kind of the design engineering. That would be B32. They're based out of Minneapolis. DGG is our food service consultant. We have a really spectacular water feature consultant on this project, Fluidity Design, and they're really helping us, with the water aspects of it. And then McClure Engineering is serving as our mechanical and electrical engineer on the project. Okay, next slide. So this is really building on what Frank just talked about and the vision laid out in the 1995 master plan for Forest Park. It really needs to be this all-season facility that it described. And so as part of this process, we wanted to start, picking up on that original idea, and then building a vision for the project that would guide us as a design team and client group throughout the entire process, something we can turn to and rely on and ask ourselves constantly, does this meet up to what we want to achieve with this? So the vision for this project is to reimagine Steinberg, the Steinberg area is what we're calling the area around the pavilion, as a place for all-season fun that is equitably, environmentally, and economically sustainable and inspires a variety of structured and unstructured activities that are welcoming to all. So, I think we approach this project knowing that there's a tremendous sense of nostalgia, and people in St. Louis, this project means, this place means so much to them. And, we understood that going forward that, this needed to build upon that. It needed to really take everything that was special about Steinberg and make it better. So that's how we're looking at this project and how we make decisions about it in tandem with the vision you see there. Okay. So I'm going to begin with an overview of the project, and probably the best way to begin with an overview is with a physical overview. And a lot of times these are easier to read and understand than plans. So this view you see here is taken from up in the sky, looking approximately northeast across the Steinberg Pavilion. You can see all the surrounding vegetation that it's nestled so nicely within. Again, this all-season concept being a driving factor of how we want to reimagine this project, we're going to look at this, in both the summer season, which is the view you see here, and the winter season, because we were using those as really guideposts to help us, make sure that these are programmed and active and interesting spaces to be almost every day of the year. So I think, just to begin to describe the project itself physically, one of the things that we heard the most in the outreach process was that people had a tremendous affinity for the scale of Steinberg. It's the largest outdoor rink in the Midwest. And that meant a lot to people, and that's one of their memories, is skating across this broad, expansive rink, and looking up at the stars. And so you'll see that in our current concept, the rink configuration and general size and position hasn't changed from where it currently exists. We really felt this was the best way to maintain flexibility, as well as maintain the strong connection between the pavilion and the rink itself. So another aspect of the kind of site, we'll talk about the site first, is people really wanted shade. I think for a space to be successful in the summer and attract people, it needs to have ample amounts of shade. So you can see in this plan, we have both a large shade canopy along the western edge of the rink. We have a tree grove that would be on the southern side of the rink, and there's also shade provided on top of the roof terrace, which we'll describe a little more in detail later. Food, also important. So we're going to be repurposing the Zamboni garage as a food pavilion or a snack area out on the site, so you could quick and grab and go food while you're out there during the summer. And then the rink surface itself, this idea of flexibility, again, was guiding the decisions that we were making. So in the summer, this is going to be an important aspect, is to really activate this rink surface and make it appear like just as interesting a place to be as it would be in the winter. So we're looking at accommodating uses such as roller skating, temporary games, mini golf, and then large activities such as markets, festivals, movie nights, all sorts of things that could be implemented in this space. And the idea that it's constantly, changing and flexible and offering new opportunities throughout the seasons is a key component of this project. And then I think the other key aspect of this, the site area itself, is the water play. And so we were looking for an element that, just like the ice rink in the winter, it really identifies Steinberg and becomes one of the core activities during these other seasons. So the water play area, the interactive water play area, is positioned just to the north of the ice rink, between there and the lagoon. So, and I'll describe that a little more in detail later. The moving over to the building, or the Steinberg Pavilion, and Karen again will talk about this in more detail. Paramount to our process here was maintaining the architectural character of the existing Steinberg Pavilion. It's the way it's nestled into the site, and the way it is a really nice allusion to the kind of geology of the area with the stone wall was important. So we're maintaining that as best we can. But the one big opportunity we did see with the roof, with the pavilion, was the roof itself. Currently, it's an empty space that is at the same grade as the slope behind it. So we're proposing a community room up there, a rooftop cafe, and then a really large rooftop terrace. And those are going to be things that activate that space, as well as provide this amazing viewpoint across the rink and to the park beyond. And I'm sorry, one more last thing is this project is going to follow the waterway project, which is tying together a lot of the waterways in the eastern side of the park. So it was equally important that the new Steinberg area connected to that waterway project, and really helped capitalize on that as amenity. And we're providing flexible green spaces out there. There'll be a new bridge constructed as part of that to provide access between the pavilion and Faulkner, and numerous little spots along there where people could engage with the water. And it's really kind of a nice, beautiful pastoral space that helps Steinberg relate much more to the site than it does in its current iteration. All right, next slide. Now this is taking us to winter, and as a landscape architect, we design a lot of gardens, and we tell people, if you can make a garden successful in the winter, the rest of the year is pretty easy. Well, here at Steinberg, we kind of have the opposite problem. Is that it's definitely an attractor in the winter, and our task is to really help build it out and make it more year-round from that perspective. But In the winter, this place is going to be dynamite, and it's going to be getting even better. But as you can see, the rink area is still the same size, and around it we positioned warming areas and seating areas. I think one thing we really heard during this process was that people watching and viewing is just as much fun or as an attractor to this place as ice skating itself. So and currently there aren't a lot of great spaces to view the rink. So everything we're doing around here is kind of building that dialogue between people and the activity that are happening on the rink and some of the adjacent spaces. So the rooftop cafe and the terrace and all those places are then further activated and made much more interesting. We really see this as a place where somebody would just go to grab a meal or have a drink and watch the ice skaters, and that would be a great afternoon into itself. The water feature area is going to be converted into a warming area, and there will also be some warming tables or fire pit tables on the rooftop terrace as well. All right, and then I'm sorry, go back one. on the rink surface as well, we right now we're showing skating, but I think our goal is to have that flexible as well during the winters. So the skating program, obviously recreational ice skating, speed skating is still possible here, figure skating, and then more structured activities such as hockey, curling, and then even the bumper cars, which were very popular this winter, or ice bikes, things like that would add some variation to the winter program on the ice surface itself. Okay. So as Cordell mentioned, we have been soliciting feedback from the community on this project since 2019 through various surveys and outreach methods. And in addition to ice skating, we were what was really important to us was hearing what other activities do people want to see happening here at Steinberg. And the list that this is kind of the top 5 responses that we got. They were all tallied up, and we made a pretty comprehensive list with all of them in there. And there were some outliers, but these were kind of the main ones. The first being events, festivals, and outdoor market. Again, in the current design, these kind of types of activities require a lot of flexibility, and they require a lot of space. So one of the advantages of sticking with the current configuration of the rink is that it really allows those to happen with ease. Live music, concert, and performing arts, again, all things that could easily be accommodated within the space. Roller skating still is a very popular activity, and if you were some of you were at the open house on Saturday, you've seen that we'd had quite a few people enjoying the rink for that purpose. And so we were really excited to kind of really be, supporting that program going forward. Movie nights and then a beer garden was also talked about. Additional activities, climbing wall, exercise and wellness programs, fishing, fishing tackle rental, lawn and outdoor games, mini golf, nature programming, roller hockey, and yoga. So all things that we are currently, able to be accommodated in the design program we're showing. Okay, next slide. And kind of building on this idea of what we heard from the community, we wanted to show that these activities that were really working within the space. So we did a lot of test fits and for different program combinations on the rink, and showing how they could be worked, kind of be conducted in concert, so that there's still the synergy and energy happening out there. The image on the left depicts what would be, what would the rink area look like with roller skating and games. Roller skating maybe taking up 2/3 of the rink, and then games 1/3. Other activities could be lawn games. The water play would be active, lawn seating, an outdoor market. For a concert, we're able to fit quite a few people out there. We could position the stage at the north end of the rink, and people could view the concert from there. A nice backdrop with the rinkside cafe and the tree grove there. And then for like a fall harvest fest, we could do like a corn maze and some other activities within the rink itself, and markets and vendors from local farms. And then a lot of the supporting programming would be arrayed about that as well. So this idea of flexibility and how we can, make this space, interesting and constantly changing is important to this idea. And there will also be, an active person on staff that is going to program and ensure that these activities are occurring, and the variety of experiences offered are always enticing people to come to Steinberg. All right, next slide. Okay, well, this is one of the fun things, and again, kind of talking about this idea of how we create a continual draw to Steinberg. And I think one of the most salient things that came to us was this idea of an interactive water play area. It's kind of the counterpoint to ice skating, that it's a warm season activity. It's very vibrant. It attracts kids and can evolve throughout the season, just like the rest of the program at Steinberg. So along that north edge, we are proposing a pretty substantial interactive water play area. And what's really cool about this, like a lot of the things we're doing here, we want to make it of the community. We want to make it inspired by, Steinberg and Forest Park. And so this water feature is actually inspired by the Cascades, which a lot of you know over down on Lagoon Drive, and with its kind of stepped limestone cascades and the water that goes down down the slope of the hill. So as you can see along the back there, there's sort of a stepped limestone wall that would have both areas for seating, and these really cool moments where water would be cascading over those into this really kind of large, expansive a splash pool, which would be a really narrow scrim of water over the surface of the ground plane. And then it would be articulated and energized by all of these, arching jets and water fountains and things like that would be putting on an ever-changing display of lights and water for kids to run through and explore. And again, building on that idea of seasonality, once we move into the shoulder seasons of spring and fall, this would probably become more of a water feature. We could turn the pool off, and then it would just have, interactive water jets, and then kids could still run through it, and the cascades would still run, but it'd still be a beautiful thing to see, and it could augment some of these activities that are happening in the rink. And then in the fall, we're still kind of entertaining the idea that maybe the water could be over the cascades could be allowed to freeze. And if you've been by the cascades on a cold day, you can see that kind of ice freezing down the steps is a really kind of beautiful feature of that embraces the seasonality and makes people really feel connected to the place. All right. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Karen Liu from Snow Krylik, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the pavilion itself, some of the additions and renovations, and the interior program of that.
Okay, so stepping back from the building where we just were at the northwest corner of the rink, you can see that we've tried to preserve what we deem are the strengths of the original Steinberg building, and those are this original stone wall. We're preserving all of that, and the relationship is really unique of this building that acts sort of as a retaining wall and bluff within this topography from the uplands down to the bottomlands, and then the land continues to slope slightly down towards the waterway. What we're doing in the addition, we're renovating, first of all, the entire project, the entire building interior. And we're placing 2 volumes on top. You probably noticed in the aerial. This one glassy volume at the corner here sits close to the edge of the roof. And it's a great vantage point to be indoors and to see all of the activity down at the rink, both the water play, the roller skating, all of that. And then adjacent to it is a shade structure that really provides comfortable place to sit in the summertime. The restaurant block is right behind that, set back from the roof edge. So really there are a variety of places to sit, both interior and exterior. I'll talk about it a little more, but that cube also in the evening lights up. We refer to it as a lantern. In the evening, you'll see it sitting on top of the existing stone wall. So that space, equity has really played an important role in this project. It's very important to Forest Park Forever, for all of us involved on the design team, that the spaces are accessible, that we're reaching out to folks that don't typically come to the park. So that cube on the corner is what we call the community living room. And it will have a variety of soft seating, some work tables. So you could either pull out a laptop to work, you could play a board game with children, you can meet your friends for coffee in the morning or read the newspaper. What's really great about that room is it's a space that will not be able to be rented out. So you'll never, come there during regular hours and find that, it's not available because it's been rented for a private event. And then the restaurant on top, the cafe, is to provide maybe more of a destination place to go have a nice meal, still affordable, but not the burgers and fries maybe that you would get in the Rinkside Cafe on the first floor next to the rink and where you rent roller skates. So really, this is what we imagine to be Steinberg, just better all season, and really respecting the existing building. So now we'll look at the preliminary pavilion layout right now. It's coming a little slow. We'll see at the roof level, there's the cube of the community living room, and then does anybody else see it yet? Not yet. It's probably loading. But along.
It should be up already, Karen.
Okay, I don't see it for some reason. I don't know if anybody else has an issue. There we go. I see it now. So where that restaurant is, so 1 is the cube at the community living room with the 1 on top. 2 is a large shade structure that allows for seating adjacent to the roof edge, very comfortable. And then 3 is the restaurant, which is sort of long and linear. And behind that, with views both towards the park to the west and back to the hill towards the Kings Highway direction, is a multi-purpose room. So that can seat about 50 people. That is rentable by nonprofit organizations, neighborhood organizations, all sorts of community members. And what's beautiful is that the access provides a different type of immersion within the park. So from the rooftop, coming down the path from Kings Highway, you can see it leads straight to the rooftop. You'll have great distant views of the park and the trees beyond. And then at the rink level, there's a new cafe, which is basically where the current cafe is at the corner of the building adjacent to the parking lot. Right next to that is a stair and elevator that will bring you directly up to the 2nd floor. And so moving further on from the cafe is the warming area. So skate changing, equipment rental, similar to what it is now. And then there are 3 party rooms for birthday parties, small life events. There could be a small class in there. There could be a small lecture, and those rooms will also open out onto the rink. So in the gray, there's sort of back of house storage and mechanical spaces, and then 2 offices, 1 for the management director of the operations of the rink, and then 1 is a program director office for someone from Forest Park Forever to keep the activities, to keep scheduling fun activities at the site, to manage whatever programs are on the site within the building, really to keep their eyes on the activities there. And next is a great rooftop view in the winter. And here you can see what Rob was talking about with the water feature. The really thin pool is gone and the jets, And there are now fire pits, so people can warm themselves and gather at the fire pits, enjoy watching figure skating. And then the water feature also has that lovely cascading, bubbling coming out of the ice. So really to reflect all seasons of use, not only the rink and the building, but also this water feature. And you can see some of the trees and landscape will be cleaned up out into the distance. So you'll be able to see further into the park, and there'll actually be a visual connection to the waterway that we aren't able to see now. We can move. And so this, we just wanted to bring this up. This is from the 1995 Forest Park Master Plan Vision Statement, and it really has inspired us in our project vision. And it's such a poetic, if anybody ever has a chance to look at it, it's a couple pages long, but it's really poetic and beautiful. And just that the strength of the park flows from that sharing, from our willingness and ability to protect the park for all of us in all of our uses. Forest Park is more than a symbol of the beauty and tradition of St. Louis. It is a place where we define our community and celebrate our pluralism every day. And so here is the project in the summer. Currently, there are very few activities at Steinberg Pavilion in the summer, but here you can see it potentially teeming with activities. There's yoga on the rink surface, there's roller skating, the games that Rob mentioned, and the water feature. And at the rooftop, there's a great view all the way through. You can see the waterway in the distance, and that little, beneath the shade structure, there's the current Zamboni garage, repurposed as the snack area. So that could also have sort of to-go drinks and maybe hot cocoa in the winter. But this is really, what we are trying to do with this project is really bring it to life and engage the entire community, folks from all around the city, the county, the region to come visit and have a great time doing many, many different variety of activities, from people watching to skating.
About design and talk a little bit about connectivity of the project. And I think we know as designers that the connectivity is essential to making this place come to life. And so as part of our process, we're really examining on how we can improve the vehicular connectivity, cycling connectivity, and most importantly, pedestrian activity to the site. And then, this idea of connectivity, isn't just about, physical connections and movement. It's a lot of it's about visibility. And I think, currently, and Steinberg is pretty hidden within Forest Park. And, if you don't know it's there, you don't know it's there until you're there. So I think improving the visual access to Steinberg and, making it slightly more prominent within the fabric of the park is going to be important. So we have two views to describe that. One is going to be taken from Kings Highway, which you see that red dot and looking towards the pavilion, and then the other would be taken from the opposite the Waterways project, looking towards the pavilion down in the valley there. So go to the next slide. This is the view just west of Kings Highway. So after you go down the steps and you cross over the bike path, this would be your view down towards Steinberg. So as part of this project, we're going to be improving, pedestrian connections down there, including an accessible path that will take you down to both the roof level and the rink level from up here at Kings Highway. But I think the really wonderful thing here is, one is that we have this amazing existing canopy of trees, and we're going to be preserving pretty much all of those as part of this process. So that canopy of trees is a tremendous asset to this project. But it'll be cleared and made, air views will be kind of more opened up, and you could already start to see the community room in the background and the restaurant pavilion back there, just kind of gently breaking the horizon and becoming these sort of beacons that take you down there. Because if you went down there now, you just come across a cliff that would be the roof edge there. So this is really creating a beacon and a welcome, and a very contextual welcome to people to come down and see what's happening at Steinberg. The next slide is a view from across the waterway project, and kind of alluding to what Karen talked about. Right now, this view doesn't exist. So if you're on this side of the waterway, or it's completely overgrown with both trees and underbrush and vegetation. So what we're proposing, we're entertaining the idea of rerouting the cycle track to the outboard side of the waterway, so that the space between the waterway and Steinberg is much more pedestrian friendly, and you don't have bikes whizzing through there, but it's much more pastoral and park-like and peaceful. But now you have this beautiful kind of filtered view from across the waterway into Steinberg. Trees would, be dotting this landscape of softly rolling topography and grass, and it becomes so beautifully nestled into the site. And again, it becomes much more part of Forest Park than it was before by allowing this visual access to the project. So with that, I'm going to hand the presentation back over to Cordell. I think we've been able to hit on a lot of the major design elements within the current design, and Cordell is going to talk about next steps, and then we can answer some of the questions that you may have.
Rob and Karen, thank you very much. Great presentation, very informative. Okay, folks, so you just heard a lot of information, and for the first time you saw renderings showing what Steinberg Reimagined could be. So I'm sure there are plenty of questions out there and comments. Please remember, the only bad questions are the ones that the design team in Forest Park Forever never see. So please, if you have a question, if you have a comment on anything you just heard or just saw, simply click on the Q&A button on the bottom of the Zoom screen, and I will read your questions and comments in just a minute. A video recording of tonight's virtual open house will be available beginning tomorrow on the Steinberg Project website. You can find that at forestparkforever.org/Steinberg. Once again, that's forestparkforever.org/Steinberg. On this site, you will also find information on Steinberg's traveling open houses that are on display right now at various locations throughout St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and Illinois through October 31st. Please share the project website information with your family and friends, and provide your email for the latest project updates. Before we get to our Q&A, as I mentioned before, Forest Park Forever wants your opinion on what you have seen tonight. Please visit surveymonkey.com/r/Steinberg-comments to fill out a comment form. A QR code is also available. We will be accepting the comment forms through October 24th. Okay, Rob, you ready for some Q&A?
Yeah, I think we are. The whole crew standing by here.
All right, first question. By the way, this looks great. What's the implementation timing for this project?
I might defer that one to Frank, though.
Sure, I can answer that. Well, this later this fall, toward the end of the year, the plan is to begin developing the design concept for Steinberg, and then the last half of next year, get into the detailed design phase, which will take us into 2024. And in the meantime, we'll be continuing to fundraise for this project, and it could be 2026, 2027 before we actually break ground for construction.
Okay, thanks, Frank. Next question. While it's not entirely clear to me whether the design would increase car traffic year-round, are there any parking considerations or accommodations planned?
We are not going to be expanding the parking as part of this project, and a lot of that has to do with the no loss of open space requirement mandated by the Forest Park Master Plan. But what we will be doing is improving pedestrian connections between existing parking infrastructure within Forest Park. So obviously between the parking lot to the south of Steinberg Pavilion will be improved, but there will also be a new bridge connection over the waterway connecting to Faulkner, and via that street, there's access to lots of on-street parking and parking by the fields that people can utilize to access Steinberg. It's very important to the park, and that was articulated in the master plan, that we not be creating new parking lots and things like that as within the park, that we find better ways to increase connectivity and give people access to existing parking.
Thanks, Rob. Next question. Will the current chess playing table area remain as part of the project?
That area will likely be moved to a different zone, but we still intend to have that program as part of the project.
If I could just step in, if you go back to the aerial, Gabriella, there's a shaded seating area that we're envisioning some of that chess program going right next to the parking lot. There'll be some chess tables there.
It'll be a really nice shaded grove under which people can play chess there.
Okay. Ready for the next question?
Let's have it.
Are there plans to keep pedestrians off of the bike path?
Well, today, yeah, the paths are not dedicated specifically to bike use or pedestrian use. We do encourage the use of the paved path for bicycles and the chat path for peds for walking, but it's really based on people using good etiquette on the path system. So there is no exclusion of one or the other from either of the paths.
Okay, next question. Will the rink be closed off during construction? If so, how long?
That's hard to tell. We're a ways away from being in the construction phase, but we would hope to minimize the amount of time that Steinberg, as it exists today, as an ice skating facility, would be out of commission. There probably would be at least one skating season where it would not be available for use.
Next question. Will Steinberg ever be free and open again for people who have their own skates?
As part of our determination to make sure that Steinberg is equitable and accessible to everyone, we do plan to have a mix of free and for fee activities. We have had many discussions about how that would be structured, and we do anticipate that there will be periods of the week or times of the week when skating can be free or at a reduced price. So yes.
How can a small business partner up with the rink for a meeting spot for tours?
Boy, that is a great question. And I think that, that's one of those areas to be studied and ironed out as we move through this process. I mean, we're really haven't even begun the design phase at this point. And when we do begin that, then that will take quite a bit of time. And during all this process, we'll be thinking about and planning for the operations of Steinberg. So I that's really hard to say at this point how that will all come together.
Why did we not hear from the local consultants who live here and have participated with the park through their lives?
I'm not sure I understand that question entirely, but local consultants, was that the group? Yes, I see it here. Why
Yeah.
did we not hear from? There are local consultants on the project, or maybe this person means local residents. I'm not sure, but you know, I think Rob mentioned it in the beginning of the presentation, or maybe you did, Cordell, that we've met extensively with the community to already understand what it is they want to see at Steinberg when it's in its reimagined form.
And we've been fully engaged with all the local consultants as part of the design process. It's just that, you know, our two firms are kind of leading the design effort, but we're constantly, you know, conferring and consulting with members of our team to ensure that everything we're putting forth is you know, feasible and viable and appropriate.
And I mean, we can add to that, Rob, that Vector Communications is a local consultant in the community engagement area, and of course knows the area very well. And you know, that is one of the major reasons they're on this team, as well as David Mason. David Mason and Associates is the engineering firm on the project, and they are local as well.
This is a question statement combo. Is this project considering pedestrian access from across Kings Highway? I think it's important to create more intentional connectivity between Forest Park and the Central West End. We want to encourage pedestrian movement between the residential and entertainment district that is the Central West End and this wonderful reinvigorated section of Forest Park.
That is a great question, and the answer is yes. You know, we want to make sure that if you're coming from the east, crossing Kings Highway, that it's very clear to you where you gain access to Steinberg from the top of the hill there at Kings Highway. You may be aware too that a few years ago, in collaboration with the Parks Department and East-West Gateway Council of Governments, we conducted the Forest Park Great Streets Study, which looked at access and mobility within the park and on the perimeter of the park, and Kings Highway was a big part of that. And that consisted of looking at opportunities for improved crosswalks, places of refuge at medians, you know, in the middle of a crosswalk, bump outs, and ways to conduct traffic calming. And so all that is out there as a study. And it's a matter of working with the city of St. Louis and raising the funds to convert those ideas in that study to designs and ultimately improvements that would improve accessibility to the park for pedestrians, cyclists, and all their forms of modes of transportation as well.
Would the shade canopy over the rink be just for summer or year round? It seems like it might block the view out to the park for skaters.
I don't think that it would necessarily block the view out to the park, but we are still exploring options for how it's constructed and whether it's a solid, a permanent canopy, or maybe something that could be pulled back in the winter months or taken down. So that's still in design at this point, but we recognize that in the summer it definitely needs shade, and that would be really providing some protection against the harsh afternoon sun on that side of the rink.
Why is roller skating limited to only part of the rink? As a skater, I'm sure the whole rink will be needed, just as ice skating uses the whole rink.
Well, I think that, the summer uses are going to be really flexible and malleable. And I think the idea is that, we could adjust and make the skating rink as big as it needs to be to accommodate the crowds, associated with a particular event. Last Saturday, we probably had about maybe a little over a third of the rink was dedicated to roller skating, and it still functioned very effectively. But also with skating, you also want to have a critical mass. You know, if you only have 10 people out there skating and you have the entire rink opened up, it doesn't really have that great of a feel to it. So I think we're going to be calibrating the size of the rink, you know, based on demand, but still providing opportunities for having other activities occur out there. So no, we're going to be very responsive to the demand and what needs to happen, and we have the flexibility to do that.
If I can add to that, maybe this person is asking this question in response to what they saw in the renderings, or maybe they were at the open house on Saturday. You know, I think these renderings are designed to illustrate that a number of different activities can happen on the rink simultaneously. It's the idea that it's not just a rink for ice skating, but it can be host to so many different activities. And the fact that the plan is for there to be a full-time programming person, Karen mentioned that office space in the building there to illustrate that point. If the interests are presenting themselves as, you know, many people wanting to roller skate, then that whole space, you know, the space allotted to roller skating can be expanded. You know, or as Rob said, if there aren't that many people showing an interest in it, it can be reduced in size. So it's a very dynamic space, and I think we just need to keep our minds open to what are the interests in the community.
Could you provide information on where the space, storage, placement of skater shoes, etc.?
Oh, can we go back to slide 14? Maybe. So you can see where the benches, the warming room is, right where the number 6 is, there's a counter, and the storage of skates is right behind that. It's shaded lightly in gray. Those are all the back of house spaces. So adjacent to that is the kitchen for the cafe, which has a counter as well.
Okay, thanks, Karen. A suggestion: create bocce courts somewhere in the broader Steinberg space. St. Louis has a significant Italian cultural history and obviously French heritage as well. You see, and I apologize for the pronunciation, boulet courts everywhere in France and Italy, and it would be an interesting and unique feature in Forest Park, one you typically don't see elsewhere in the US.
I think, again, you know, we're looking at a number of options, and whether they're permanent structures or they're temporary facilities that we can install on the rink surface or adjacent to the rink surface, those are still, you know, being determined. But I think that's a very viable program option, and we're seeing the popularity of those increase, and we're doing a lot of them in our projects these days as well. So thank you for that suggestion and the cultural context as well.
This is a comment: more parking is needed than what's outside the Steinberg complex. I suggest a second level addition to the current parking lot.
That's not currently in our program right now. So
as a skater, a smaller size rink based on the number of skaters is not logical. Even 10 skaters will want to skate on an 80 by 120 rink, more or less.
Well, it's gonna be sized enough to accommodate people to where they can skate comfortably. It's just Steinberg is probably about this 2.5 times the size of a standard roller skating rink. So having the entire rink dedicated to that at all times during the summer could be challenging if we want to introduce these other elements that will, you know, attract more people to the facility.
How would you facilitate speed skating? Would the rink still have an unobstructed space for ice skating that's the same size?
Yes, the current rink does accommodate speed skating, and I think it's the only rink in St. Louis that has that capability. And another reason why we want to maintain the current configuration of it is so that can still occur. We've heard from speed skaters that they've come here, and it's very important to them, and we want to be considerate of that heritage that's been happening at Steinberg.
Any other comments or questions from our folks attending on Zoom? Thank you very much for your patience. Any more comments or questions? Going once, going twice?
Hey, Cordell.
Yes, sir.
Cordell, just while we're waiting perhaps for some more comments or questions, I think it is important to mention all the, that there are numerous connections between this project and other things happening in the community and in the park. One of those, for example, is the Brick Line, which is a GRG, Great Rivers Greenway led project that many of us on this call this evening might be familiar with. But really, that is designed to extend from downtown to Forest Park. And we are very interested in the plan, in a very broad sense, is to have Steinberg be a hub for or a starting point, a launch point, or a termination point for the Brick Line, and to have that Brick Line bring people toward Steinberg, and then also connect them to the path system, the wheels path or the paved path system within Forest Park. So just wanted to get that out there so people understand the broader impact that Steinberg can have on the community.
Another question popped up, Frank, while you were talking. I missed the first 15 minutes of the presentation. Will there be a coffee shop at Steinberg Reimagined?
I can answer this, and be happy to have Karen Liu indicate anything I might have missed. But yes, actually, Karen mentioned in her discussion of the community living room, the lantern volume on the north end of the Steinberg building that's proposed, that's being considered, would be a great place for a coffee shop, or the Rinkside Cafe as well. So yes, that is very much in our thoughts as we begin, planning the design for this process, for this project.
I just saw that a question was up. I misunderstood the question earlier about the skates. If you could bring up slide 14 again, it was where you're going to put your shoes when you rent skates. And so under all of those benches will be cubbies that are lockable for storing shoes. But then in the hallway between the number 5 party rooms and that back wall are benches and lockers back along that hallway, next to what are restrooms coming in that door from the outside directly back there. So easily accessible from the rink side.
Okay. Well, we're winding down here. Any more questions or comments? All right. Well, want to thank everyone for their participation. Where can we grab the QR code for the survey? That's an excellent question, and I will answer that. You can visit forestparkforever.org/Steinberg. That's forestparkforever.org/Steinberg. There's the QR code that you can scan for feedback. I believe we have the QR code up right now that you can scan. And please remember, you can submit comments through October 24th. Also, we mentioned the SurveyMonkey link a couple of times during this Zoom, and that'll take you directly to the comment section. And please do remember, we do have the traveling road shows at various locations throughout St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and Illinois. Once again, forestparkforever.org/Steinberg is ground zero for all of this information. Anything and everything you would want to know about what has occurred with Steinberg Reimagined so far, you can find on that website. So I want to thank everyone for their participation. Great questions, great comments. This was an excellent session. This recorded version will be available on the project website tomorrow morning. Please share all of this information with your family and friends. Public feedback, public engagement is critical to the success of this project. Any closing comments from our panelists before we wrap up?
Thanks for everybody who turned up.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
This concludes our virtual open house for Steinberg Reimagined. Thanks again for attending. Have a great night and stay safe.